Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm doing a really exciting video. I'm going to be giving you a review of Giovanna Fletcher's new non-fiction book Happy Mum Happy Baby, and I'm also going to be doing a giveaway, so stay tuned to the end to find out a bit more about that. So I picked up Happy Mum Happy Baby on audiobook via the Audible app because I'd heard Giovanna talk about it on her channel, saying that she was reading it, and I thought that would be a really great way to listen to this book. So the first thing I think is really important to say is that Happy Mum Happy Baby is not a guide or a manual on parenting. Giovanna's not talking about what to do. She's not talking about tips and tricks, although there are some sort of within her experience. I'd call this a mummy memoir. This is Giovanna Fletcher being very open and candid about her life being a mum, getting pregnant and the process of giving birth, and then on with her children from things like weaning and potty training and sleeping and travelling. But she's telling you more about her experiences rather than, well, this is why you could do this and the medical reason for this. She's just telling you very honestly and openly about their successes and their trials and their tribulations about being a parent. So I really think this is the sort of book that would appeal to people who like Giovanna Fletcher, who like her channel, who like her conversational style videos, and who maybe have children. I think if you're gonna have children, you're having children, or you've got children, you definitely get the most out of this in terms of being able to go, oh yeah, and nodding away. I was nodding away during the whole thing going, oh gosh, yeah. But that's not to say if you haven't got children and you don't want children, you won't enjoy it, because it is, as I say, it's not a tips and tricks book. It's more just about Giovanna's experience about becoming a parent and a mummy and the things that entails. I really appreciated her candidness and her openness about talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the sometimes painful things about being a parent and being a mummy especially. I think that's really important and something that is great that she's using her platform to talk about these things and be open and honest about them, because I think the more we share these experiences and the more we talk about the taboo subjects, the more we dispel them as being taboo, and we talk about them openly and honestly and find that actually we're not alone in the world in the way that we're feeling. I really enjoyed the fact that Giovanna read this herself. I think you really get sort of her sense of humour and the sense of her in it, which I really enjoyed, so I'm really pleased that I listened to it on audiobook. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It definitely appealed to me. I liked, she talks about how when she went on a plane with Buzz for the first time and they went over to see Tom do a concert and how that was and how being on a plane was. She talks about pregnancy and trying to get pregnant. She talks about her birthing experience. She talks about poo and sleep and all those different things. And it's not just, oh my goodness, and then this happened, and lots of like jokes and sort of saying how difficult it is. There's wonderful moments in there too. You can really feel that she loves being a mother and they love having their family, and it's just a really, really nice book to listen to. So when I was listening to this, bits of it really made me think about a conversation I'd had recently with a friend, and I hope she doesn't mind me talking about this. I don't know if she watches my videos. I'm sure she won't mind. And we were talking about I can't remember what we were talking about now. I think we were discussing something quite intimate, probably about how our down belows have changed or something. And she said to me, oh, I was talking to my NCT group. And if you don't know what NCT is, because I don't know if you have it in other countries, but NCT is something you can sign up to when you're pregnant, and they put you into a group, and it's like a baby, getting ready for baby group, and you go once a week for a number of weeks with other parents who live in the local area, and you learn about how to put a nappy on, and you talk about your birthing plan and things like that. But really my group just used it as a chance to link up, get to know, make friends, and then thankfully we're all very close and we still see each other really regularly, and we have our own little WhatsApp group where we have text each other at numerous times at 2 in the morning, especially when the children were young, going, are you still awake? But so she said, oh, with my NCT group, when we had our babies, it's only recently, and her children are similar ages to mine, so 4, that we actually said that we were struggling when we first had our babies. No one ever said anything. Whenever we sort of text each other after having our first children, everyone was like, oh yeah, you know, everything's going good. You know, if someone asked you how you were, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's going good, it's going good. And really, she said, now they talk about it a lot more. They were struggling. There were things they were struggling with. They were tired, they weren't coping with things, and they didn't mention it because they had this need, which Giovanna talks about in her book, to be the perfect parent, to be able to be keeping the house clean and keeping everything going just, you know, days after giving birth, and being the perfect mother and being able to feed your baby and do all these things. And it's a real big pressure that people put on themselves. Now, this wasn't an experience that I had, because if you don't know my story, Matilda was about a week and a half early, and that in itself isn't a problem, but my labour was brought on by catching the norovirus, which is the vomity sickness bug, and I was vomiting and being sick all night, and I was like, oh no, I've caught this bug. And then because of that, it broke my waters, and she'd pooed, which it is a sign that there's some distress, so I had to go in and be induced. And sorry, I find this quite emotional still, it's quite funny. And then when she was born, she was only £4, which is quite small. And she had to be rushed away to intensive care. And it transpires that I had preeclampsia, which was something that I had been telling the doctors I thought I had for weeks, and they said I didn't. And she was in hospital for 2 weeks, and she had to be fed through her veins, and she couldn't eat, and her stomach wasn't completely sort of properly formed. And it turns out that the placenta had stopped working a few weeks before, they think, or at least a few days before. And so the body is just an amazing thing, and what nutrients she was getting was feeding her heart and her head so that she was alive. But there were certain bits of her that weren't quite ready, so she had to be in hospital for 2 weeks. And so because of that, and because a lot of my NCT group gave birth in the same hospital, as they all gave birth after me, they were all coming through the hospital and they knew that things weren't great for us. So I didn't have to say, oh yeah, you know, things are perfect, because they weren't great. And I was sleeping in a hospital, you know, sometimes having to sleep on chairs so that I didn't have to leave her. And things were hard. And every single one of my NCT girls, I think, bar one, had to come back to hospital 2 days, 3 days after their babies were born, because they'd lost too much weight. Because when your baby's born, they do lose a little bit of weight initially, and then they pick back up again. But sometimes they lose too much weight, and that can be because your breast milk's not actually feeding them. You think you're feeding them and they're not getting the breast milk, or they're not feeding enough, or there's some underlying issues. And so my NCT group were very well bonded, because I was obviously going through quite a lot, and they were very supportive in that. And so there was no hiding from the fact that I was having issues. And after that, we were all very open about things. And I think that's really important. I think it's really important when you're having a baby to have a strong group of people, whether you join NCT or whether you have a lot of friends who already have babies. I think it's really important to have those people there. And I think in some ways it's quite important, even if you've got friends that have got children, it's nice to have a group of friends that are going through it all at the first time together as well, because I think you're all awake at the same time, you're all shattered all the time, you're all just like, oh, come around my house with the baby and have a piece of cake, and we'll just like sit and we might just sleep. And yeah, I just think it's really important to have those people there, and to be open and honest, and not to feel ashamed if you're struggling, because there is nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be ashamed of if you're struggling with something. And moving on, I wanted to give a little, not a tip, but something that I wish that I had been told or known about straight away, because it would have helped. And one of those things is when I got pregnant 3 months before my wedding, which had been planned for about a year and a half, and I just had this massive surge of hormones. I wanted to be pregnant. I needed to be pregnant now. I couldn't wait till the honeymoon, and it was like something took over me, and so we did end up getting pregnant very quickly, which we were very lucky with, but I was pregnant 3 months before our wedding, which was in Vegas, so that was interesting. But because of that, my parents had planned a big trip. They were going away for, I think, about 3.5 weeks, and it coincided with the birth of Matilda, and there was nothing they could really do to change it. And, you know, that wouldn't have been a problem at all had it not been for the fact that Matilda had been in hospital, and then she had terrible reflux, which meant that we often slept with her on us, and took it in turns to stay awake so that the other one didn't fall asleep with her on us. We eventually managed to find a really good cot and get her on the right medication because she was so bad she needed medication. I went to a baby class one day and she was sick quite a lot from the reflux, and the mums looked at me and they all kept asking about it because obviously new mums are worried that you're bringing some sort of bug in, and I had to tell my story every time, and I was finding it really stressful and quite emotional, and so I just didn't want to leave the house. And also, like, Giovanna talks very much about it in her book because they stayed in the hospital for a number of days for various reasons after Buzz was born, and you become a little bit institutionalized, and we've been in hospital for 2 weeks with Matilda, with the nurses helping us with everything, and I was petrified when it was time to leave. I was petrified of not being able to do things. I was petrified of getting things wrong and being in charge of this little person, and then I had the medication and the reflux and all these things on top of it. Jamie, my husband, had to go back to work. My parents were going away, and I just felt really anxious. And my mum had found out about doulas, and a doula isn't something I'd ever heard of. And a doula is basically someone who's there to help you. If you have a doula when you're going through pregnancy, she can help you with your birthing plan and during the labour, and just be a support, that someone there that isn't medical but is like a friend almost. And then a doula afterwards can be someone that just comes and helps out, and they really do just do whatever you want. I found a marvellous doula, also called Eleanor, and she came round, and all I wanted was for her, I think she came 2 hours every week, and I just wanted her to support me in things that I was struggling with. So the first time she came, she helped me to give Matilda a bath and just helped show me, and was there as that sort of support and someone that I felt had experience, and so really could sort of help me. Sometimes she just sat and had a cup of tea and I chatted to her about things that I was worried about and struggling with. One week she went with me to the supermarket to do the weekly shop because I didn't want to do that on my own with a vomity baby, and I didn't think I could cope, and so she was just there to be on hand just in case I needed her, and it definitely made things a lot easier. It made me realise I could do it, and it was just so lovely. It was like having a dedicated friend who was interested in helping you with your baby. And in fact, one really important thing she did for us was, I was shattered after a number of weeks. Matilda didn't sleep. We had to stay awake to keep her upright because her vomiting was so bad. I worried that she would choke and various things. And so one night I was so tired, and Jamie was so tired, that we rung the doula and we said, look, I know you do overnights. Could you come round in our spare room, which is next to our room? Could you have the cot in there with her night feed, and do you think you would be able to stay over? And I was very anxious. I didn't think that I could let someone else do that. I felt like a failure. I felt like I couldn't cope, and that there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't deal with these sleepless nights like everybody else. And when she came, she was lovely. She said, look, if you're awake, come in, you feed her. You don't have to stay in your bedroom. It's not like I'm locking you out. I'm just here to do what you want. I will sit. She said, I'm reading Harry Potter. I'm going to sit and read. And when Matilda wakes up, if I need to, I'll feed her. Otherwise, you can come in and do it. You do what you need to do. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep. I'm going to be so anxious and so stressed. And I was asleep within seconds, and I had a really good 8 hours hours sleep. And I woke up and Matilda was still fine, and the doula had looked after her, and everything had been okay, and I felt like a new woman. And it was the best thing I ever did, and we only did it once, we only needed to do it once, but it was just so nice to do that, and I really pleased I did. So that was it is just something I want to let you know, that doulas are a thing, and they're really worth it if you feel like you haven't got that support network, or there's people not around that you need to, or even if you feel like you don't want to ask someone that you're really close to do those things for you. You want someone impartial and someone that's not a family member, because you feel like that would be easier. And also, you know, when it's not a family member and it's someone you're paying for, you feel like you can tell them exactly what you want and how you want it done. So I really recommend that. Anyway, before we get too waffly, onto the competition. So I want to offer a copy of Giovanna's book, and you can be in with a chance of winning this if you follow the rules. As usual, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, give it a thumbs up, and make sure if you're under 18 that you have a parent's permission, because I will be asking for your address, and you need to be somewhere where Book Depository will post to you, I'm afraid, because I'm going to be doing it through Book Depository. And also in the comments down below, I want you to leave a tip, so to speak, of something you wish you had been told or had known about before you had children. And if you haven't got children, you can still win. You don't have to give me a tip. But if you haven't got children, your comment should be on why you would like to read this book, or if there's someone that you want to gift it to, you can let me know there. So just the reasons why you would like to be in with a chance of winning this. I will leave this open for a week, and then I will be picking a winner. As usual, I will put closed on the competition when it's closed, and I will put in the description at the top who the winner is, and I will pop you a reply on your comment to say you've won. I'll also tweet out who you are. So if you want to leave your Twitter handle, I can add that too, and I will then get the book out to the lucky winner. So make sure you do those things. The rules, as always, will be in the description as well, and go try this book out. It's definitely worth a read, especially if you like Giovanna Fletcher and you like hearing more about her parenting and her life. And yeah, that's it from me, and don't forget to enter the competition, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.